Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Irfan bin Burhanuddin. Today, me and my group members will present our Islamic product, which is Sukuk. My group member consists of Adaha, Hasliza, Najwa, Anawi, and Arif. Okay, firstly we will go through to the introduction of Sukuk. Sukuk represent one of the most vibrant and significant components in Islamic finance. Globally, the Sukuk market has experienced a tremendous growth, though the Sukuk market issuance declined in 2008 as a result of global market crisis. Long-term prospect for the Sukuk market remains strong. Global Sukuk outstanding rose to more than 231.4 billion US dollar at the end of 2012. Malaysia pioneered the development of the global Sukuk market with the launch of the first sovereign 5-year global Sukuk worth 600 million US dollar in 2002. Since then, our Sukuk market has experienced a massive growth, with Malaysia firmly established as one of the largest issuers of Sukuk over the years. The development of the Sukuk market in Malaysia is supported by a comprehensive infrastructure, including the reporting, trading, and settlement system, which has resulted in an active primary Sukuk market. So, without a doubt, Malaysia offers one of the most viable options for participation in this fast-growing asset class. Coupled with Malaysia's more than 30 years of experience in Islamic finance and its overall comprehensive domestic sector, Malaysia offers several attractive value propositions for local and foreign Sukuk issuers and investors. So in Malaysia, the issuance of Sukuk is regulated by the Security Commission Malaysia through the framework provided under the guideline on Sukuk. The structure of Sukuk must be confirmed and approved by a Sharia advisor who is appointed by the issuer. A Sharia advisor can be an independent Sharia advisor approved by the Sharia committee attached to a financial institution that operates Islamic banking activities approved by Bank Negara Malaysia.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I am Hasliza. I will continue on the definition of Sukuk, where Sukuk is derived from the Arabic word sak, that's mean a certificate, where the certificate is comply with the Islamic regulation commonly known as Sharia. Okay, by AAOIFI, or Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institution, was defined Sukuk as a certificate of equal value representing the undivided shares of ownership of tangible asset for particular project or special investment activities. Okay, the purpose of issuing Sukuk, normally we know that for corporation to raising fund without diluting the current shareholder equity, where we issue the Sukuk, there has no effect on the ownership of the company nor the control of the corporation. Okay, corporation also can take an advantage of the cost saving from issuing the bond by eliminating the bank as a middleman and raising fund directly from investor. And also it is an efficient way to borrow fund, where we don't have to go through the numerous separate negotiation with the bank to raise fund, and that needs and the company to continually raising fund and can issue new bond as long as they can find investor to act as a lender in the capital market. Okay, type of Sukuk. Here we categorize Sukuk as a 4 group based on sale base, lease base, partnership base, and also agency base. Okay, under sale base we have buy bid taman ajil or BBA, that known as a deferred payment sales, murabahah, that cost plus sale deferred payment, salam, known as a deferred delivery purchase, istisnas, Islamic project bond, and Under lease base, we have ijarah, ijarah mutahiyah bitamil, and ijarah mausufah fi dimah. Next, partnership base, we have mudarabah and musyarakah. And the last is agency base, we have wakalah bi istimar. Okay, among the type of sukuk, we have highlight on the sukuk murabaha and sukuk wakalah as a top sukuk in Malaysia. Where sukuk murabaha, we known as a cost plus sale, and at a deferred payment. Most of the Islamic bank and financial institution are using the murabaha as an Islamic mode of financing, where most of their financing operation are based on the murabaha. Suku murabaha is a certificate of equal value issued for the purpose of financing the purchase of good. Through murabaha, the certificate holder become the owner of the murabaha commodity. The issuer of the certificate is the seller of the murabaha, and then the subscriber are the buyer of the commodity. So the realized fund are the purchasing cost of the commodity, where the certificate holder own the murabaha commodity and entitled to it final sales upon the resale of the commodity. Okay, the sukuk only feasible in the primary market, and the more reliable interpretation of fiqh by Malaysian jurisdiction permitted sale of debt at a negotiated price. Example of the corporate that issue on the sukuk murabaha is Pengerang LNG2 Sdn Berhad, RHB Bank, and also Masin Group Berhad. Okay, next sukuk wakalah, where sukuk wakalah is a structure from the concept of wakalah, that an arrangement whereby one party entrusts another party to act on its behalf, where the contract involve usually an agent or wakil to act on behalf of the former based on the agreed term and condition, as long as she or he is alive. Okay, wakil be appointed to manage the wakalah portfolio with the aim to generate the profit or return. Investor appoint an agent or wakil through the SPV, where to invest the fund provided by the investor into a pool of investment. Wakalah structure comprise a pool or a portfolio of asset or investment as opposite to a particular tangible asset or asset. And also this will leave the investor to have a choice of investment portfolio. The wakil will use the expert to select and manage the investment on behalf of the investor to ensure that the portfolio will generate the expected profit rate agreed by the principal. Okay, example in Malaysia that issue on the sukuk wakalah from Bank Pembangunan Malaysia Berhad, Padi Beras Nasional Berhad, and Ion Credit Services Sdn Berhad.
Now I will sharing about information Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad. Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is a special purpose vehicle established by Government of Malaysia from USD 2.0 billion trust certificate is according with the Sharia principle of Wakalah, with Government of Malaysia as a obligo comprising the following series. First, USD 1.2 billion trust certificate due 2016, and USD 800 million trust certificate due 2021. About rating, the Sukuk is rating A- by Standard & Poor Rating Services and Division of Macro Hill Companies, and A3 by Moody and Investors Service Limited. Wakalah Sukuk Berhad The issue date is 6 July 2011 and date of listing on Bursa Malaysia Security Berhad is 7 July 2011. The purpose of Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is operate as a special purpose entity. The company was formed for the purpose of issuing debt security to repay existing credit facilities, refinance indebtedness, and for the acquisition purpose. Source from Bloomberg. I will sharing information about parties involved into Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad. The ownership of Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is Minister of Finance and Federal Land Commissioner. The wakil of Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is a Government of Malaysia. Government of Malaysia responsibility to ensure the performance of major maintenance and structural repair of the payment of proprietorship tax, and the responsibility for ensure that the lease asset ensure to the extent responsibility and commercially practicable in Sharia compliant manner against a total loss event. The joint book runner and booklet member is CIMB Land Limited, Citigroup Global Market Limited, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation Limited, Offshore Banking Unit Labuan, and Maybank International Limited. The registrar of Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is Citigroup Global Market Land AG. Principal paying agent, transfer agent, and replacement agent is Citibank NA London branch. As the simple explanation, structure and mechanism of Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad is a others Wakalah structure where they have to appoint agent or wakil to act on their behalf. Here, the Minister of Finance and Federal Land Commissioner as the owner was appointed Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad as a SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle, so that the Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad as SPV responsible to find the investor with issue the certificate. Based on the structure, we can see after the SPV get the investor, the sukuk proceed will go to the owner, that is Minister of Finance and Federal Land Commissioner, about 52%, and the balance 48% of the proceed go to the Government of Malaysia. According to the Sharia compliance, all the sukuk listing need to comply with the Sharia compliance, and they need to have a Sharia advisory board pronouncement. So here, Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad have 3 Sharia advisory board pronouncement from CIMB Islamic, City Islamic Investment Bank, and HSBC Amanah. Sharia Advisory Board need to review the structure and mechanism to be into the respect of the Government of Malaysia USD Trust Certificate by Wakalah Global Sukuk Berhad to ensure compliance with the Sharia principle.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Arif, and then I would like to continue the presentation about the differences between Sukuk Islamic and bond conventional. Okay, first we go for the Sukuk. Ownership is the partial ownership of an asset. The compliant of Sukuk is the asset that backs Sukuk should be compliant with Sharia. The pricing is the face value of a sukuk is priced according to the value of the asset backing them. Reward and risk for sukuk is sukuk holder receive a share of profit from the underlying asset, and Sukuk holder accepts a share of any loss incurred. Effect of cost in Sukuk is Sukuk holder are affected by costs related to the underlying asset. Higher costs may translate to lower investor profit and vice versa. Um, Sales of Sukuk is sale of ownership in the asset backing them. Right. For the bonds, ownership is debt obligation. The compliant for bond is compliant with law of country or locality they are issued in. The pricing of bond, if bond pricing is based on credit rating, for example, the issuer credit worthiness. And then rewards and risk for bond is written from bond correspond to fixed interest, making them riba. And then the dear principal is guaranteed to be written at the bond maturity date. Effect of cost of bond is bondholder generally are not affected by costs related to the asset, project, businesses, or joint venture they support. The performance of the underlying asset doesn't affect investors' reward. Okay, sales of bond is sales of debt. Okay, this is about the right, responsibilities, return, and risk in Sukuk. Okay, first is right. Right to underlying asset and its cash flow. A Sukuk represent the ownership of its asset, product, or service. That means the underlying asset. A claim contained in a Sukuk is not only a claim on the underlying asset used in a Sukuk transaction, but also a right to cash flows and proceeds from the sale of the asset. For example, in Ijara Sukuk, the Sukuk is akin to trust certificate establishing undivided ownership of the leased asset and the right to the cash flow arising from it. Right to cash flow from the contract of exchange but not the assets. In the case of a Sukuk issue as evidence of indebtedness arising from the sale of asset based on contract of exchange other than ijara, such as those originating from by bitamin ajil, murabahah, and istina'ah. The claim is on the obligation stemming from the applied contract of exchange and now ownership of the physical asset, as ownership has been transferred to the obligor. Okay, right to undivided interest in specific investment. In the case of special investment activities funded through musyakarah and mudarabah, the Sukuk represents the holder undivided interest in the specific investments. Mudarabah Sukuk is used to raise funds for projects on the basis of partnership contract. The Sukuk musyakarah holder or investors then become the owners of the project in proportion to their respective shares. Profit are distributed according to a pre-agreed proportion while losers are pro-rate according to their equity share. Each mudarabah Sukuk holder or investor, on the other hand, hold equal value in mudarabah equity. Profit will be shared on a pre-agreed ratio between the mudarabah investors and the Sukuk share equally among the mudarabah investors. And next, number 2 is responsibilities. Trustee play an important role in Sukuk. In fact, in every Sukuk issuance, save for the issue or offer which come under the exception provide for under Schedule 8 of the Capital Market Services Act 2007, a trustee is required to be appointed and a trust deed to be executed. Thus, trust structure is central in Sukuk. So far as Malaysia is concerned, the important roles of trustee in Sukuk is nature and the extent of power and duties of trustees appointed therein. The categories of trustees in Sukuk and their designated function, as well the nature and extent of power and duties of a trustee, with an insight on the current practices in the Malaysian Islamic capital market industry dealing with trust structure in Sukuk. The relevant aspect in trust structure, which include the trust deed on the constitutive documents, and the role of trustee in the event of default of Sukuk. Okay, the return for Sukuk is as for Sukuk, the calculation of profit similar to conventional bond. But in a Sukuk contract, an investor's claim is not on cash flow alone, but an investor's claim on the benefit of an asset used by money generated through Sukuk financing. In a Sukuk contract, the money generated from the issuance of the Sukuk will be used to buy an asset. Then the Sukuk certificate holder has a claim on the benefit generated by the asset according to the investment rate of the investor. For example, if an investor subscribes for 1,000 with a 10% profit margin rate agreement, the investor will receive RM 100 annually and 1,100 at maturity. Sukuk has also been structured where the issue is not an exchange between money and certificates alone, but it is based on the exchange of approved asset with a number of financing scale, which will allow investors to receive profits from the transaction. Okay, the next is risk in Sukuk. Okay, talking about risk, the difference between Sukuk and conventional bond is that in situations where the bond issuer is unable to repay the debt and interest to the investors or creditors, the investors will lose all his investment because bond contract usually have no collateral asset to recover the investment principal. Instead of Sukuk, in a Sukuk contract, there must be a guarantee that the money generated from the investor is used to buy an asset for which the investor's profit come from the benefit of the assets. In the event of an adverse situation, investors can still claim part of their investment by pledging the asset that are collateral to the Sukuk contract.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Najwa. I would like to present the rules and regulation of Wakalah product. The scope of Wakalah arrangement must be within the boundary of Sharia principles. There is 4 subject matter that Wakalah arrangement must be clear and must be set up in the Wakalah agreement. As an example, the duration of the agency, the type of asset, the condition termination of the Wakalah arrangement, and the criteria asset that agent can select. Besides that, the agent must be paid a fee, even if nominal, in order for Wakalah to be valid. In addition, the principal, in whatever form, can only receive the expected profit as agreed lah. So as an example, the amount they use to fund the predict distribution amount, any excess that held, the agent will get the benefit. Besides that, the Wakalah asset must comply with the eligibility criteria. The agent must ensure that at least 30% of the portfolio of Wakalah asset is comprised of tangible assets, such as murabahah or equity or other asset, other bonds. Okay, let's proceed to the prerequisite from parties involved, which is the condition that they must be followed. There is 5 conditions. First, the agent must be someone that is capable of performing the responsibility and fulfill the minimum requirement. Second, the authorizer has the freedom to terminate the contract or service the agent, and the agent also could withdraw from the contract anytime. Third, principal should know the agent by physical or name. And fourth, it is legal to entrust certain business dealing to an agent even if the authorizer is capable of perform same deal himself. The last, the Wakalah contract will end with the accomplishment of the entrusted task or mission. Alright, there is another condition that related to the object of the agency contract. First, the object of agency should be eligible for any legal authorization. It is not permissible to conduct wakalah for any physical prayers because prayers such as haji, kurban, zakat and kafarah would be test and act as trial to the believers. Another point is the entrusted agent will not be held responsible for any damage or destruction of the business except for cases of proven negligence or ignorance on part of the agent. The last, the agent is not permitted to act beyond of what he entrusts by the authorizer in the first place, except if it is unlimited agency, we call it wakalah mutlaqah.
My name is Anawi. I will present some example of sample documents from several agencies regarding Sukuk. Security Commission have released a document called Guidelines on Issuance of Corporate Bonds and Sukuk to Retail Investors. So this document was released in 2014 and the latest revision of this document was released in 2019. This document was set out guidelines to the retail investors about the requirements related to Sukuk and bonds, including to issue Sukuk, offer for subscription of Sukuk, purchase of Sukuk and invite to subscribe Sukuk. This is a sample of Sukuk document that launched in 2020. This Sukuk is called Sukuk Prihatin. This Sukuk is introduced by the government to raise fund of 500 million to help the government to revive the economy during pandemic. In this document, they have highlighted and explained the flow of how to apply the Sukuk. The Sukuk actually can be applied through internet using the JomPay and Do It Now. The terms and conditions also have explained briefly in this document, like the Sukuk size, maturity date and profit date. It also mentioned that this Sukuk is under Sharia principle of commodity murabahah. This is the product sheet of Malaysia Sukuk Fund. This Sukuk is released by Maybank in 2014, which is the first local Sukuk launch in Malaysia. This document also explains all the features, terms and conditions of the Sukuk, such as the profit rate, maturity, Sukuk size, fee and charges. This Sukuk also available online through Maybank to you, and it mentioned that this Sukuk is under Sharia principle of commodity murabahah. TTM Sukuk Berhad is an SPV between Petronas and Thailand company, act as a project funding vehicle to fund the project of Thailand-Malaysia gas pipeline. This is the example of Sukuk document of terms and conditions which highlights some important details such as the principle, Sharia Advisor Board, Islamic principle, issue size, price, tenure, and coupon rate. I will explain briefly about the Islamic point of view for the Sukuk based on the recently published journal. I am referring to the article written by Ahmad, Islam, Al-Abdullah and Amran in 2019 titled A Qualitative Analysis on the Determinants of Legitimacy of Sukuk. In this article, the authors have explained the history of creation of Sukuk and the Islamic standpoint on Sukuk. Islamic principle are stands on Quran, Sunnah and Ijtihad. The idea to develop the structure and practical use of Sukuk are designed using Ijtihad. Ijtihad is the Islamic law that describes the process of making a legal decision, independent interpretation of the legal source. By Ijtihad practice, Sukuk is designed as the Sharia compliant securities which replaces the conventional bonds. The authors also highlight about the issues related to the Sukuk, which is Sharia risk. Sharia risk is a unique operational risk that affect the Sharia compliance of a product. This risk may reduce the confidence of stakeholders who realize that the institution is not living up to their commitments and can negatively affect the market discipline. So reducing the Sharia risk is important, and increasing the Sharia compliance with promoting the role of Sharia advisor can enhance the legitimacy of Sukuk.
So now we have come to the conclusion of our presentation. To sum up, we can say that the Sukuk is considered as a reliable asset and such as a guaranteed Islamic securities and classified more powerful than the classifiable bonds. These financial instruments can be used to attract and gather the dispersed society assets and also take appropriate portfolio for provide most advantage with Islamic beliefs for investors. So after the discussion on the Sukuk mechanism and the difference between the Sukuk and bonds in a lot of aspects, we conclude that Sukuk and bond are not similar financial asset because unlike bond, a Sukuk does not constitute a lender-borrower relationship. Apart from that, we also like to take into account on the role of the government, which the government itself should have a proper planning and preparations for this product, Wakalah Sukuk, have an important step to take interest-free banking law. And last but not least, we hope that Wakalah Sukuk will widen the scope of Sharia compliant products in the country's capital market and offer more opportunities to the investors who are keen to invest in Sukuk. I think that's all from us. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.